Hi, my name is Jeremy. This is Red Means Recording. And in front of me here, in front of all of us, in front of you, assuming that you're actually watching this, this is the Elektron Digitone. It is an FM synthesis group box and pasta maker. And we have 4 channels of pasta and many knobs that can control the shape of that pasta. And if you like pasta as much as I do, then this is a very, very fun box to play with. So I have been playing with this a lot. It's been sitting on my table for the last week, 2 weeks, and I've just been making patches on it. In the last couple of videos, we made some patches, and I'm thinking about maybe doing that again. Maybe let's just do a whole bunch of videos about patches on the Digitone. Just as a heads up, if you hear a bunch of weird noises, I got a neighbor moving in behind me, and I'm sure he's a really nice guy, but the moving process is very loud, and yeah, there's nothing I can do about it. So we're going to start on a blank pattern here. As we talked about in the previous videos, FM synthesis works by combining sine waves of different frequencies into something weird and maybe useful to you. And Elektron has also added some cool features like the feedback feature, which isn't going to do anything right now because I don't have anything set upwards, and the harmonics feature, which actually changes the wave shapes of your operators. 4 operator synth, C, A, B, and B2. C being the carrier wave, and A and BBB being the modulators, I think. I may have that reversed, I don't know. So in the last video, we made a pretty weird pad. What should we make this time? Let's make an ARP line, because then I don't have to play anything. I can just play with the knobs, and I get to show off the Arpeggiator on this, which is really, really cool. I don't like arpeggiators built into my patches a lot, but hell if I have not been reaching for this thing a ton when I'm making stuff. So welcome to the Arpeggiator page. Let's turn on the Arpeggiator. We have a couple modes: true, up, down, and cycle. That's cool. It's already sort of loping. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to turn on my metronome. No. Let me get out of this. Metronome is on. Cool. Oh, I love that. That's great. So real-time record by holding down. A couple ways to enter trigs or notes on the Elektron Digitone. I can press the record button here, and I can enter in trigs and then go and change their pitch by holding them down and changing that root note right there. And that's very useful sometimes. But what I want to do now is real-time record, and if I hold down the record button and hit play, I'm now recording, and you can hear my metronome going tickety-tick-tick. So I'm going to wait for that to come around here. And hopefully that worked fine. So I don't know if you saw, but it says unquantized live record. You can switch between them with the record button held down and tapping the play button. And if you recorded unquantized, so I mean, that's good. A lot of people like to record off the grid when they're working with the groove box, and not every groove box allows for that. But the Elektron Digitone, the Elektron Digitone does allow for that. So if you did record something and you want it to be quantized and it wasn't, go ahead and press the little ellipses thing right here, boopity boop. You'll have this menu here, which is very useful, and includes quantize. And if I hit yes, now I can turn up the quantize for the track itself, which is track 4, or I can just say everything just quantize, which is pretty sweet. That's pretty useful. So I'm just going to do both because I am going to use quantize on everything. Okay, so we're going to turn our metronome off. There we go. I'm just learning now that sometimes you do something over and over by accident, you don't really realize what it is, and then you realize how to do it, and you're like, wow, that's cool. There are some momentary controls here on the Digitone. Holding function and pattern would normally just get you into the metronome page, but if you just want to turn the metronome on and off, you can hold function and pattern for a little bit longer, and it will turn the metronome on and off, which I gotta say is pretty fantastic. So hopefully you don't get tired of this pattern. I don't really care. I can't do anything about it. Let's go back into the art menu. So in the art menu, we have basic things like speed. Basic synth knows what we're on. We have range, which is going to jump up and down octaves. And if I were to make my, I'm going to make my pattern longer. If you hit function and page, you now see how it's over here it says 1 of 4. If I hit page again, I can go toggle between 1 measure, 2 measure, 3 measures, or 4 measures for the length of my particular pattern that I'm dealing with right here. And I want it to be 2, just so we can share that cycling through the different octaves of the arpeggiator up a little bit more. And what's going to happen is, because I only had I had data on 1 measure, what the digitone and what the digitech does. If you change the pattern length after you've entered notes, it's going to copy what you had on measure 1 into measures 2, 3, and 4, which you may or may not want. So if I want to change anything about any of my trigs that I've entered, I hit this little button right here. And now if I want to, I can switch between the different pages of my pattern, 1, 2, 3, and 4 measures of my pattern that I've now created. I have 2 measures to my pattern. You can see that that trig set that I recorded on measure 1 is now on measure 2 as well. I don't want that. I want trig 1 to go for the whole length of page measure 1 and 2. So I'm going to do what Elektron boxes are really well known for, and that's called step locking or parameter locking. And this means that if I hold down a trig, I can parameter lock all kinds of shit to it. So what I'm going to do here is hold down this trig, and now you can see that there is stuff that has shown up here, that yellow highlighting. That means that this particular trig has settings that are baked into it already, and that makes sense. If you have played something and recorded it real time, you're going to have note length, the velocity of it. This keyboard's not velocity sensitive, but it's baking in the velocity at 100 when you use it, and the note itself. So I want my trig to be longer. Right now it's 16 steps. I want it to be 32 steps. There we go. Now it should go for measures 1 and 2. And we're going to hear that. I'm going to turn this range down again. Okay, cool. I like the way that rolls. That's really nice. So I'm going to turn this up. And you can start hearing it going up an octave like that. And if I go to 3, it's going to go up even higher. And obviously, if you change the mode here, it's going to affect the way it cycles through those things differently. I like cycle. We have note length built into the arpeggiator. Which is legitimately useful. So the last part of this here that's really, really cool is this shit down here. This is a pattern thing, basically. So right now, there's 2 controls here, 3 controls sort of. This will tell the arpeggiator that you want it to be a certain length. So right now it's all 16 steps. But if I were to make this smaller, you're not actually going to hear this until I start affecting the data that's on here. So let's go through here. You can use the arrow keys left and right to move through a step. Think of this as like a little step sequencer, a little pattern sequencer. If I press down, that's going to get rid of that step. It's going to silence that step in the arpeggiator. And if I change this length here, I have now just created... You can start creating these interesting rolling sort of, non-normal rhythm things. I don't want to say polyrhythm because that's not the right word, but it's cool. It's really cool. Okay, so the other thing that you can do here is you can change the pitch of each one of these things here. And it's going to be the relative pitch, I believe, to the pitch that you entered in the keyboard. So easiest way to show this off is with some octave switching. So up and down is going to not do what I'm saying. You're going to use the knob here. So we just took a really static arpeggiated thing and turned it into something a lot more interesting and rolling and sort of surprising to us. And honestly, after playing with the OPZ and pretty much anything that has the ability to create something that fights against itself or beats against itself in such a way that it surprises you, I'm a huge, huge fan of that. So we're going to use this ARP here that we've made as the basis for, I don't know, maybe kind of like a glassy marimba thing. We just want to make it really cycly and cool. So let's hit play again and go back to our synths. And I showed this off in the first video, but the first thing I like to do when I'm making like a more percussive or a marimba-y or xylophone-y sound is go into Synth 2 and turn up my operator A with a little bit of decay, a tiny bit, because you get that nice percussive edge to it. Now we're going to go into here and experiment with our shiz. Okay, so I also want some delay on this because that's going to give us some nice things going on there. And I want my delay to be a ping pong delay. Yeah, there we go. So I'm really liking the way that that harmonic is sounding when it's sweeped. So I'm going to go into my LFO and I'm going to assign LFO 1 to the harmonics. Turn this way down. One of the things that I like about what's going on here is that I have a very small amount of release time, my ADSR envelope for the volume here, very snappy envelope at the beginning, and then a sort of a mid to low sustain, and then a bit of release. And I've taken this envelope for operator B and given it an attack and some decay. So we're hearing that percussive hit for operator A coming in and giving us that nice punchy percussive thing. And then operator B, as that thing holds a bit, we're hearing it kind of fizz up a little bit. So that's without it, and I'll bring it in. It's a very subtle thing, but that's just, I love the fact that I can make things that sound weird and interesting like that with FM. I can't really do that with a subtractive as quite as well. So what else could we set what could we set our second LFO to? That's the real question. Let's bring our multiplier down for the tempo and, whoops, nope. Let's turn our depth up and play it and then just scroll through the LFO destinations and see what we get. Kind of interesting. So right now it's sweeping really fast through ratio. It's making ratio B sweep through, and you can hear how it goes up really, really high. It's going up. It's doing ratio B right here. Operators B ratio really, really fast. But if I turn the depth way down and change this to a sample and hold kind of thing, which you can get by changing the trig mode to hold, like that, little squarey thing, and then going into the LFO part here and changing this to like random. Now that's cool. So what we're getting now is the harmonics are sweeping around with LFO1. LFO2 is basically a sample and hold random thing now, where it's every time the note hits, it's changing its value for a random value. And we have this turned way down because what it's affecting here is the ratio of operator B, which is a series of overtones that are giving it that really cool sort of like harmonic pinging through different pitches thing. Now you can hear it completely. So ratio, let me turn off the depth of this completely. So obviously we already have a lot of pitch stuff going on based on our Arpeggiator, which is using the pattern sequence that we made and the octave cycling there. But as we turn this up, now the LFO is affecting the overtone pitch of operator B, which is giving us even more variation, which I just think is so cool. A little bit of feedback actually sounds nice. We're getting sort of a little white noise bit on the beginning of that, which is really, really cool. Now, if I wanted to... okay, I'm saving this sound. One thing I haven't tried yet is whether or not the chorus can be used as a flanger. I want to try that real quick. It doesn't sound like it. Sounds cool, though. Nice little stereo width thing. I'll probably leave the chorus on there. Just a little bit less of it. And one of the take-homes from this particular video that I want to drive is that small changes can have a prodigious effect on your sound. Because everything is interlinked. And then that way, the Digitone is super, super cool. So find the sweet spots that work for you. And experiment. Experiment. I'll take this opportunity, if you're still watching, to show you how to save a sound. Because one of the things I have been doing while I've been playing with the Digitone by DiGiorno is making a patch bank, and probably end up releasing it at some point, free to patrons, and then put it on Ko-Fi or something. I don't know. We'll see. So if you push this function, and hit this, you get to this sound manager thing: import sound, export sound, and manage sounds. So we're going to export this sound. It's going to go to the section of bank C that I have not filled up yet, which is C31. You can see I've made all these sounds so far. Isn't that cool? Yeah. A and B come populated, banks A and B, and then C and D. I don't know how many banks there are. Let's see. Oh my gosh, each one has 250. Oh, that keeps going. Holy shit, there's a lot of fucking preset settings sections here. That's overwhelming. That's an overwhelming number of slots for presets. I can't. That's too many. Okay. I'm going to go to Su31. Yeah. I'm going to call this George. Great. So then you get into this little thing here, which is super useful, where you can designate what characteristics this sound has. And there's a filtering thing in the sound browser, which you can filter down into these different categories, which is useful. So this is obviously an arpeggiated sound. I'm going to say that it is on this page. That's it, I guess. And then it's sort of soft. That's not really soft. It's bright. It's mine. And that's it. That's all I got. So save. And now I just saved that sound. In the next video, I want to show off how to import sounds into what's called the sound pool, which is specific to your project. And then how why you would want to do that. Basically surrounding the ability to parameter lock between sounds, which is super cool. I promise you, it's really good. So just stick around. We'll handle that next. My name is Jeremy. This is Red Means Recording. I hope you're having a wonderful... Fuck you, people moving. Thanks for ruining my outro.